And we are live. Hi, Fab Squad. Yay! It's Dr. Jamie here, your lifestyle pharmacist, your board certified pharmacist, speaker, best-selling author, event host, and I'm just here to keep you fit, fabulous, and fulfilled without those prescribed pills. And how do we do that? By sharing information, sharing facts, and bringing experts in front of you to talk about the topics that matter most to you. And so that's why we are here. And with that in mind, we have a very wonderful topic that I think you all will find a lot of great and valuable information out of. And on this episode of Live with the Fab Squad, we're going to be talking with Demetria Sloan, who is an executive leadership coach. And she's going to be going over some important pearls that we all need to know as we have some very crucial conversations in the workplace. So Demetria, thank you so much for being here with me and with the Fab Squad tonight. And so for those who are meeting you for the very first time, introduce yourself to the group.
Well, Jamie, first off, I want to thank you for having me tonight. I'm super excited about the opportunity to be here and be with the Fab Squad. We have a mutual admiration society going between us, and so I'm just excited to be here. My name is Demetria Sloan. I'm the founder and president of Vantage Point Coaching. I offer executive leadership coaching, life coaching, and training and development services. I too am an author. Woo, woo. Shout out to all the authors out there. I self-published my first book 2 years ago. It's titled Pearls for the Journey, A Guide to a More Fulfilling Life. And it has 10 pearls of wisdom for you to live by and practice. And as a coach, I always ask those critical questions, that's kind of part of what we're talking about tonight. But I ask a lot of critical questions to help my clients get more of what matters done. And as a coach, we're always forward focused. So how can we use what we have, inform the past to inform us to impact our today so we can have a better tomorrow?
Oh, I love that. I love that. So you being here is right on time with this topic because there's so much going on right now. Okay, I just have to take a deep breath and just let it out.
Let's take that deep breath.
Yes.
Ooh,
yes. There's so much going on, and people have a lot of questions. And hopefully, at the end of this time tonight, people will feel a little more empowered and have some strategies that they can use to have some conversations that are very necessary. So, especially in the work environment, we hear a lot about crucial conversations in leadership, and especially as it relates to our work environments. And these are, difficult, right? But they're essential. So I really want to start there. For those who are working in corporate, they're working, for someone or associated with an organization, a nonprofit, an entity, crucial conversations need to sometimes happen. So what are some things, and this is you, using that executive leader coach hat, what are some strategies that people that are listening right now, like, oh, I've been needing to bring this up to, my peer, my supervisor, my director. What are some strategies that can make these conversations as effective as possible for people?
Yes. Very, very good question. I see we have a few people watching tonight. So shout out to everybody that's tuning in and that's live with us. We want you to get involved in this conversation as well, because I like to have a conversation. So if you have questions, comments, drop them in the comments section as we go along so we can have a really hearty conversation, because we have all had to have a crucial conversation at some point in our lives. And they come up in the workplace all too often. And sometimes we avoid them, right? So we avoid them because we want to be liked. We avoid them because we don't want to for those of us, women of color, we don't want to be the angry Black woman. We avoid them because we are afraid, right? We allow fear to limit us. But crucial conversations are very necessary, and they're also healthy. They're a healthy part of our growth process and our development process. So we have to be able to have those conversations. So in terms of preparation and strategies, I really like to say prepare. That's the number one strategy, is to prepare for the conversation. If you just go in off the rip, something is going to be missed, something is going to be left out, and some feelings are probably going to get hurt.
Oh yeah.
So it's really critical to prepare, to pause. So that's one of, they have, the 6 P's is prior planning prevents poor performance. Before you get into that prior planning, I would say pause. And then you should pause and then prepare for that conversation, but then ask yourself, how important is it? Right? Because every hill, we don't have to die on every hill. We really kind of have to choose which conversations are worth having and which conversations are worth letting go, or which are worth not dealing with in the moment, or which do we come back to later, so that we can be clear and have clarity of thought and presence of mind. The other thing I would say is that don't be afraid to express emotion, but avoid being emotional, right? You need to come with your facts. Focus on the facts and focus on the impact, right? So facts over feelings, and then focus on the impact. What is the end result? What is the impact of this conversation going to be? And what do I want the end result to look like? So if you kind of, prepare, pause, prepare, begin with the end in mind, think about the impact, and express your emotions, but don't get emotional, because you need to be able to divorce your feelings about the situation so you can focus on the facts.
Oh, I love that. And since we were talking about, women of color, especially, we often get labeled as being angry or being difficult, right? So, not being emotional, because, women, all women, no matter what, ethnicity, sometimes get labeled as even being, oh, she's just so emotional, and people discount or discredit or tune out what is being delivered because they say, oh, she's emotional. So I love that you really emphasize, having your facts together, facts over feelings, and expressing your emotions, but not being emotional. I love that.
Absolutely, because our emotions are important. And I think we need to get in tune with what those emotions are. So sometimes, we go with happy, mad, sad, kind of those basics, but there's depth to each of those, right? And so what is the actual emotion that it's evoking? And then even that first crucial conversation you need to have is with yourself. Why is this even evoking this emotion in me? Why is this evoking this feeling in me? And start with that, right? Because if you don't have a crucial conversation with yourself before you go in, you'll be all over the place.
Yes.
And then you will create more negative impacts than positive impacts by that conversation. So
yeah. I love that. Yeah, being self-aware, checking in with self first. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Mm-hmm. So what about individuals who are on teams, and there's a situation happening with one of their colleagues, one of their peers, not someone that they report to or someone that reports to them, but their peer. And instead of having a peer-to-peer conversation, they and try to resolve whatever is happening or discuss it, they engage their leader to then kind of be like the middle person or the mediator in the situation, because some people just naturally try to avoid conflict, so they kind of tend to run away or shy away from having to address whatever that challenge is with that individual. So what can we do to help those that are tuning in and are like, oh yes, that is me?
So I would say this: if you ever aspire to be in a leadership role, I would encourage you not to take every challenge that you have to the leader and the person you report to, because what you're demonstrating is that you don't have the capacity to be a problem solver, to think critically, to be innovative, and to manage conflict and manage change. A lot of the conflicts that we have are, it could be personality related, it could be just different viewpoints, and if you just have a simple conversation or just clarify understanding, it would be over and done with. But when you go back, and this is a word I adopted from Iyanla Van Zant, and you awfulize it. So you awfulize what the outcome is going to be. And then you go to your boss and you have all of this energy and emotion about, oh my, da 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 da. And you have all of this energy, and you are coming across as someone who doesn't have the capacity so to handle difficult situations. So then when promotion time comes and there are conversations being had about you in a room that you're not in, it's being said that, you know what, they don't really handle these type of difficult situations easily.
Well,
So that's what I would say. Now there are times when you want to consult with your boss if it is one of those situations that is beyond you. Right. So it has to be
okay.
something that is beyond your capability or capacity to solve. You may have tried to solve it. Say you've already attempted to solve it. You've already attempted to have that peer-to-peer conversation and it didn't go well. Or there might be some sabotage going on in that peer-to-peer situation. Then you need to involve them in the conversation. But I think it's always very important that that you address the problem with the person who the problem's with before you bring anybody else into the situation. And that goes for life and in the workplace.
Yes.
You know, 'cause if you can't address the problem with the person who the problem's with, then you need to ask yourself, okay, so what's going on with me that I don't want to deal with this, right? And so then you can involve. Often we just involve other people too often and too soon, and that just causes a bigger mess.
Yes. Yes.
Causes a bigger mess.
A
So don't
bigger,
cause a mess. Yes.
don't
And I
cause
see
a mess.
somebody that don't cause a mess. Someone said, I have learned to pick my battles as a leader. Absolutely. As a leader, you definitely have to learn to pick your battles. But also as a subordinate, you have to learn to pick your battles.
Yes.
Every hill is not yours to go die on. You know, we don't always have to
Today,
be
it can
yeah,
wait.
yeah, we don't always have to be Braveheart. Like,
Yes.
we can just kind of like, okay, let that land. And then some stuff is just not that important. Like at the end of the day, always check in with your purpose.
Ooh.
Always check in with your purpose. If it's impeding you from getting to your purpose, then it's worth having that conversation. If it's not impeding you to get to your purpose, then choose to have that conversation or not,
Yeah.
but really check in with your purpose, your why, and if it's holding you back in any way. If it's not, be like a duck, let it roll off your back.
Let it roll on off. I love
Let it
that.
roll.
I love that. Yeah. So what about people that are outspoken? And they sometimes are very comfortable with challenging the norms. They operate from this space of, wanting to be innovative and wanting to, think outside the box, and, be a little more creative or, maybe offering solutions, right? You're like, yeah, me, you, right.
Yeah, me.
So sometimes that type of energy or vibe or personality can sometimes be frowned upon by some people in certain environments. So how do people still assert themselves at work and they want to offer ideas and be innovative and be solutions oriented and not just always talking about the problems, but they don't want to be negatively labeled as like the troublemaker or the person that's always trying to do too much or wanting to be the center of attention or the star on the team? Because those are some things that are sometimes said when people try to show up in a way that's not the standard.
Yes, I would say a couple of things. So you mentioned being solution oriented. So being solution oriented is key. because some people just talk to talk or say a lot of stuff without saying anything. So make sure you're offering something of substance and that's relevant, right?
Mm.
Because if it's not relevant to the job at hand, the task at hand, or if it's not going to make us get to the end results we need more efficiently or more effectively, then it's a great idea, but does it matter right now? Right. And so that's another thing. And being very clear about the time and the place and the how you deliver the information. Um, because time and place situation really impacts how something is going to be received. Because if you're not in the right, if like right now we're dealing with this COVID situation and a lot's going on. So you know, a lot of bright ideas right now, they're good. Like let's save them for another day. But
Another
right
time.
now we're just trying to keep people healthy. Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? So the time and place and the how relevant it is so very important. And then the other thing I would say about being outspoken, about challenging office norms, not every culture is for you. So if it is not a cultural fit, and if what you're adding is not adding value, is not being received as a value add, you need to might need to find a new culture. You might need to seek excellence elsewhere. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Because you know, different environments, they operate differently, and if
Mhm.
you're not going to be able to impact that change, if you're not going to be able to shift that culture, because cultural shift takes a long time in all
It
organizations.
takes time. Yes, it is not just like that. No.
It's not just like that. And if you're looking for it to be just like that, then it might not be the organization for you. And that's okay. That is so very okay. But I also would say seek allies. Find the people, find your tribe. You know how we say find your tribe? You know,
Yeah.
find your tribe within your organization. There are other innovators, there are other people who are outside of the box thinkers, and actually they don't even see boxes, they just see opportunities. You know, find that tribe, and that's when you then talk to your leader about, hey, there's a task force. I'd like to create a task force to address this issue. I'd like to be a part of, you know, there's a group that is working on that. Be in the know about what's happening and what's going on, where the innovators are, and get involved and ally with those innovators. So that way you have an outlet, and the outlet that is ready to receive all of that energy, that creativity, and all of those ideas. And I think that one of the, you know, most positive things you can do is even when you can create a whole new job that they didn't even know they needed. And I've seen people do that
Do that.
because
Yes.
yeah, they have ideas, they have energy, they have really you know, kind of just a spirit of innovation that, hey, the organization didn't even know they needed at the time. And they create a whole new job description for
Hmm.
themselves and they lead the way. And
Yeah.
so it's really, but all of that requires dealing with it in the right time and place, really knowing what the culture is, and having those allies.
Love that. We're getting a lot of comments. They're loving this. Ally with the innovators. Not every culture is for you.
It's true. It's not, you know,
Yeah.
hey, and that's a good thing because there is opportunity in many different places. And
Yeah.
sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean you leave your organization. It just might be in a different department, it might be in a different group, it might be working on special projects. You
Yes.
know, but I mean, there's some of us who just like project based type of work because it's like, okay, I don't want to do the repetitive thing all the time,
Mhm.
right? So we like project based work. And so we like to work on that thing, get it to completion, and go to the next thing. Find that within your organization or create it in your organization.
Yeah. And that also shows, leadership, that you are again solutions oriented, and you may be bringing a challenge or an issue to the forefront and offering a solution, and you already have those allies who are willing to roll up their sleeves and do the work. And there you go. So I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah. Because sometimes there's a whole lot of talk and people like dumping, the problem onto the leader and not having, people that want to help in and assist you even with, like you said, being on that task force and doing the work. And that is really
Absolutely.
received very well when you
Absolutely.
approach your leader with something like that, not just,
Absolutely.
this is a problem.
But here, if you want to be outspoken, like I said, hopefully you're speaking about something. Like you
Yeah.
have to be talking about something of substance. If you're just being outspoken because you like to be a contrarian, and that is some people's personalities, right? They're contrarian personality. They're highly skeptical, and they express doubts and all of the things that could go wrong first. You know, to me, that's not necessarily outspoken. That's just, part of their personality phenotype, and that's fine. But know that about yourself.
Yeah.
Know that about yourself. But yeah, if you are getting to something of substance, then yes, speak out. It's worth it.
So we
Mhm.
have a question that I want to bring up on screen. And I thought this one might resonate with a lot of people. So if you're working as the liaison between leaders and like a project team, maybe for the first time, how do you even manage that? You are, the liaison between, these two groups, and this is your first time even functioning even in that capacity.
Yeah, well, the first time you do anything, it's going to be a learning curve, right? So the first thing I would tell you is to give yourself some grace, that you are on a learning curve and that you are going to have some hiccups along the way, and that's okay as long as those hiccups move you forward. I'm sure some of you probably have heard of the concept of failing forward fast. So you want to make those mistakes early on, make them fast, but they also are moving you forward and helping propel you. I would say the other thing is really get in, have good relationships try to develop relationships with people on both sides, understanding what the leaders' needs are, and being really clear on those leaders, their needs, how they like to receive information, so that then you can then provide the project team with the clarity and the direction. Because sometimes the project team can get so granular that the leader's like, I don't even, what is
And get
right?
down in the weeds, like they go down this
Yeah.
rabbit hole, and you're like, where are we? What are we
Yeah.
doing?
What is all this? And leaders like, listen, I just need about that. So really getting to know both sets of people on both sides, establishing relationship and understanding what their needs are, understanding how they like to receive information, and understand, their communication styles. And that, I think, will assist you best in being able to go between both groups and go back and forth between both groups. Because you could provide a report to the leaders or from the leaders to the project team, and both wonder, what the heck is this, because they speak their own language, their own lingo at their own level, and their own way of expressing themselves. And so, it's always tough being a liaison. And then anytime you can get the decision makers on both sides in the room together with you, so that you all can make the big decisions quickly, get them in the room together with you. It's like, so you can make the decisions quickly, the big decisions that matter most, make them very quickly.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so talking about being in the room, and I want to shift gears into talking about being at the table or not. So particularly for African Americans, there's this whole getting a seat at the table, having a seat at the table, right? And so we're often not invited to the table. So
Mm-hmm.
how then within, certain business organizations and structures, if you're not even invited in the room to even be near the table, how then can people even work towards, having a seat at the table?
So a couple of things here. And so one of the things that we've been told and we've been indoctrinated with, and some of it's to our for our benefit and some of it has been to our detriment about being twice as good and this, that, and the other, right? But I do think that there is something to being excellent, you know, being excellent at your job, your task, and demonstrating excellence. So I think starting with demonstrating excellence, ask for a seat at the table, because I think oftentimes we don't ask because we have a fear of being told no. But no just means not now. You know, so ask. I think you should also seek out mentors,
Mm.
seek out sponsors. Now, now sponsorship is tricky, but and it's not something you really say, oh, will you be my mentor? Will you be my sponsor? It doesn't really quite work like that.
Yeah.
And one of the ways it was described to me by someone who I counted as a mentor, again, who didn't look like me, had a big age gap from me. He was the former president of the organization that I worked in when I was in the pharmaceutical industry, and we forged a relationship years after the fact. And one of the things he told me, his approach in finding mentors, and I thought this was so very powerful, is identify those areas of opportunity that you want to work on and find people who are really good at that, and just start having a conversation with them. Hey, can we grab coffee? I want to talk about this and this.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the best mentoring relationships are those that are informal, and that you are seeking people for very specific things that they're good at and just talking to them about what they're good at. Because when you're just talking to them about what they're good at, they are willing to share a whole wealth of information. And then identifying those right people who are mentors for you, because depending on where they're positioned and placed within the organization, they could then in turn become a sponsor for you. So when those conversations are being had behind closed doors and they're saying, hey, the next leadership opportunity, this person, they sought me out. So that's
Yeah.
demonstrating leadership skills. They sought me out. They had really good questions, right?
Yeah.
They learned some things, and then they shared with me how they were able to implement the things that we talked about. And so you're demonstrating all of the leadership capabilities and capacities that they're looking for the next person to bring up to the table. And so I would be thoughtful and strategic about the people who you seek as mentors, because those mentors could then become sponsors. Because a sponsor is someone who sees something in you and is willing to put their political capital on the line for you and say, hey, no, I'm tapping them to be next.
Yes. Yeah. They will
Yeah.
essentially, some people might say, put their name or their reputation on the line for you. They vouch for you, essentially. Yeah.
They'll put their name, their reputation on the line. They will be the waymaker.
Yes.
They will be the waymaker for you. And so again, to be an excellent. So be excellent so you don't let them down.
Yeah. And something else that you said that I really, really like, oh, yes, for me was you have to let people know that you're even interested in being in the room and at the table. Oftentimes people have these desires, but no one knows. If you're not talking about it and sharing that, whether that's in your performance evaluation or if that's in the team meeting, people need to know what you want to do so that when people are having these conversations and you are not there, people can bring you up. But if they have no idea that you even want to do XYZ, then your name won't be brought up. So we have to talk about our goals, what we're passionate about, what we want to do, this big idea that we have. People need to know that.
Absolutely. They need to know, and they probably need to hear it more than once.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes we think just because we said it one time that that's at the top of somebody's mind. It's not. They need to be reminded. And so, especially if you're having one-on-ones with your manager, your leader on a regular basis, make sure that your aspirations and your goals are clearly stated and that you talk about it each and every time you connect. Now, I'm not saying you go into a whole 20-minute dialogue about it, but hey, these are the things that, remember, these are the things that I'm working toward, and this is the progress that I have made. And so you do have to bring it up and bring it up often and keep it at the forefront of their mind. But sometimes we have to ask, and it's okay to, you would be surprised if you say, hey, can I join you at this meeting? I just want to sit in and learn.
Yes.
How many times people would say, okay,
come on.
And then you're going to be like, oh, dang, I didn't know they were going to say okay.
Yes.
But
right.
My husband tells my children all the time, our children all the time, when they do good, they're my children. When they do bad, they're his children. Some people out there don't know how they go. But he tells our children all the time, if you don't ask, the answer's always no.
No.
So ask.
Yes. Yes. All right. So here's another one. I know that while people have been home a little more, this has been an opportunity for them to maybe take some online, classes or get some additional certifications. So people are, adding some things to their toolkit, so to speak. And so people might be in the mindset that they're preparing if they need to pivot or make a switch in what they're doing, professionally, how they're earning their income. So with that being said, I was so startled when I came across an article on Yahoo Finance that talked about a study that was done in women when they were being hired into a new position, and that 64% of women said they did not try to negotiate their salary. I was just like, I was expecting there to be, maybe 40, maybe even 50, but over half of the women surveyed said that they didn't even attempt to negotiate their salary. And a lot of it was them feeling thankful for the opportunity. They wanted to just go ahead and solidify it and get everything finalized. And they didn't want to be off-putting to the person, to the organization or the HR, whoever was making the offer. So how do we change the perception among women that it's unacceptable for us to counter, the initial job offer if we feel that it's lacking? And it doesn't just have to be monetary, right? Because there are other things that we can ask for or negotiate around that are non-monetary. But the fact that over half of women don't even ask for anything more in whatever bucket.
So I think it was 2 Saturdays ago. So I do these virtual brunch experiences and different things. So go to my YouTube channel, go to Vantage Point Coach YouTube channel, and watch the replay. We did a whole session on negotiation.
All right.
Because if you don't ask, you shall not receive. Okay. And so the first thing I want to say is this. If you, over the course of your lifetime, your starting salary impacts everything. It impacts your ability to retire, how you're going to live in retirement. And if you don't start off where you want to start off at, you are going to be always behind the 8 ball. So we need to, whatever that spirit is that's within you, that's afraid to ask or just so thankful and grateful, you have to understand you are bringing something to the table. And every time, know that you're bringing something to the table. It doesn't matter. You're being underpaid.
Right.
Okay.
They got you for a steal. They got you for a discount. Is this the bargain basement sale? Like, what's going on?
You are adding value. Now, if you don't believe you have any value, then that's a whole different conversation. If you are happy, truly happy with just the opportunity and money is not an object for you, then cool. Don't negotiate. But you should always negotiate for something.
For something, yes.
You should always
Yeah.
negotiate for something.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, it could be a cleaning allowance, a clothing allowance. I mean, whatever it is, you should always negotiate for something. So this is what as I was preparing for this and jotting down my notes, I said what you should really get clear on: are you happy to have a job, or you're trying to manage your career?
Mm.
And that's two different things. If you're just happy to go to work and do the work, that's cool. There's no judgment against that. I mean, there are people who are satisfied with that. But if you're not one of those people, then you should be very comfortable and clear on what value you are bringing to that organization and how you want to be compensated for it. Now, compensation comes in many different ways. That compensation comes in the form of the salary. It comes in form of bonuses. It comes in for the stock options. It comes in the form of number of vacation days. It may come in for some other perks in terms of your health benefits. It may come in the form of education opportunities and being able to get another degree and all of this stuff, right? There are
Yeah.
so many different things that you can negotiate and that you can ask for. And if you don't get it and you still want that job, you need to negotiate and ask for an opportunity to talk about it again in 6 months. You need to ask for that. So I know that the performance review cycle is normally at this time, but I would like to come in 6 months after I've been able to come here and demonstrate the
My
value that
value.
I'm add. And then I would like to be able to renegotiate it and have an off-cycle discussion about a salary increase, because I know that this is what the market will bear. But
Yes.
this is where we talked about preparation earlier and just having crucial conversations. Do you know what the market will bear? Do you know what the range is for that salary that particular position?
Position. Mm-hmm.
Right? Do you know what the range is that they're working with? Um, do you know where everyone else is banded within within that has a similar job function? Do you know where everywhere else is banded? If you don't, then you will be hard pressed to negotiate. And I think that's probably why so many people don't, and so many women don't, is because you have to do that research and know that information going in.
Yeah.
And then you also, as women, here's the thing. And I think the data is women make 87 cents to the dollar that a man makes, and that's the whole swath of women.
Yes.
African American women is 64 cents to the dollar. Now, knowing that off top, having that information, you need to be a little bold about, okay, because that 64 cents to every dollar, when you factor that out over the course of a lifetime, over a 20, 30, 40-year professional career,
Yes. Come on. Come on. Come on.
how are you going to retire? And you're going to outlive the money that you are able to save. But then we're not to mention that women go in and out of the workforce
Yes.
because we have children.
Mm-hmm.
We are more likely to care for elderly parents. And so if you don't negotiate off top on that first starting salary, and I see somebody's put in a comment here, conversation I would have had with my younger self. If you don't negotiate and get it right off top, you will be behind. Now, luckily, sometimes organizations, and I was the benefactor of that, where the organizations they do their job audit, they see where they're paying people at a certain bands, and they do adjustments. If you're benefit to get one of those, great. But even if you do get one of those, then you're looking at yourself and like, dang, so they've been underpaying me this much
All
for
this
this
time.
long.
Yes. Yes, they have.
Yes, they have. How about that?
Yeah.
So, I would say with negotiation, just kind of this whole thing, ask for what you want, be clear about what you want, be clear about what your non-negotiables are. What are the things you must have?
Yeah. What are
And
the
at
deal breakers? Yeah.
what are the deal breakers for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
And then And then five, whatever your corporate guidelines are in terms of, if you do have these conversations at performance review times, if you're able to have an off cycle negotiation, if if you're able to ask for some type of bonus in lieu of a salary adjustment. I mean, there are all different types of things you can do, but you just got to get clear on what's important to you, and 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 what you're willing to accept.
Yes.
And you have to get real clear and real comfortable if the answer is no,
No.
because then what you're going to do?
Right. Then what? Yeah.
Then what? What are you willing to do, and how long are you willing to stay in that position?
Yeah.
I encourage people, and I heard a female executive speak years ago, and I actually had this conversation with one of my clients on yesterday, who she stayed with her company for 30 plus years. She never left the company, what have you, but she did a job interview. She was in a high level C-suite position, but she interviewed with a different company every year. Why? She wanted to test her value in the
Yeah.
marketplace.
Oh,
So not
wow.
only did they give her the opportunity to know what is available and out there, and what I can be offered, but it also gave her leverage anytime she got down to the table with her company, in
Yeah.
terms of what that next round of negotiations would look
Would
like,
look
because she
like.
had leverage, because she knew what the market could bear and what was out there.
Right. In that moment, at that very time. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. She
Mhm.
wasn't working with old numbers, old data. No, I received this offer yesterday.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I love
And
that.
so
That
she
is so
stayed with
smart.
that organization. She never left, but her resume was always fresh. Her skills were always sharp. She always knew what type of training and development opportunities that she needed to invest in herself in, to ensure that she was still competitive.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
thought it was a really smart strategy.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that. Some people get the job, they finish their formal education, they enter the workforce, they're working in their career, and some people think that that's it. But the fact that you have to keep making yourself marketable, attractive, and allowing yourself to stand out and be differentiated from the pack. Like, there are
Yeah.
additional certifications you can get. They're not required. Your organization is not saying, oh, you need to get this, but you are adding things to your resume that make you attractive, and that does give you leverage.
Absolutely. And I encourage people, there was a time when my company, so kind of near the end there, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do anyway. And, we were having a lot of upheaval, which a lot of companies are dealing with right now because of the financial situations and financial impacts related to COVID. And but this was a few years ago, and I was like, well, these are the things I want to do for my development. And they're like, well, we can't pay for those things. And it's like, no problem, I'm going to do them anyway. All I'm asking you is to allow me to take the time off and not go against my PTO.
Yeah.
I'll invest in my own development if you don't take these days against my paid time off. And they
Yes.
were like, oh.
Yeah.
So that's even a negotiation. So I
Absolutely.
invested
Paid
in
educational leave or time. Yeah.
yeah. So I invested in my own development opportunities as I was thinking about what my next thing was going to be when I wanted to go into coaching. And so I paid for my own certification. And they, my boss thought that was like the greatest thing in the world. He was like, she was willing to pay for, she didn't ask us to pay for her development, right? But
Right.
it's right, because it's my development, it's my career, it's
Yeah.
my life beyond what this organization is going to be. And so I really encourage people to think about that. And that's something that you can negotiate for, because you should be thinking about your entire career and even the life beyond the job you're doing now, and start preparing for it today.
Yes. Prepare today. I love that. All right, so I'm gonna shift gears again. And for those of you who are just joining us, this is Live with the Fab Squad, and we are talking about those very crucial conversations that you might have needed to have had in the workplace and you hadn't, but this is gonna give you the tools, the strategies, and the courage to have some of those conversations. And we have our very special guest here with us this evening, Demetria Sloan, who is an executive leadership coach. All right, so in shifting gears just a little bit more, I can't let you go before we talk about the corporate consciousness that may have been awakened in relation to all of the things that we have been living, but now it's been made more apparent to others, because of the Black Lives Matter movement and the murders that have been being committed against people of color for years. And a lot of organizations, and I've been paying attention, I'm on like the email list for a lot of different brands and organizations, and people, I'm getting all these emails with their statement about their position on the Black Lives Matter movement, or even on websites now, you see like a statement, and even some people have gone as far as dedicating like a whole tab, and it delineates their response and how they're contributing and how they're supporting the Black community. So some people are skeptical about, all of this from some people. So my point in all this is, while these are positive steps in the right direction, of course, there's still a need for, more education and conversations about bias that exists in the world, the impact that, implicit bias has, the racism that exists in our society and even in some professions and organizations. So my question for you is, with all this happening and all this going on, all these statements, people want to be on the right side of the movement and not alienate their Black customer base, is it up to us now as African Americans to be the catalyst for these conversations to occur at work if they have not been occurring? Some people feel compelled to now be the one to bring it up. So if it's not happening, should we feel compelled, and in some cases people feel pressured or obligated or expected to be the one to step out there to initiate the conversation?
So this one is tough, right? And it's tough in that, to me, the answer is yes and no. Because I will say this, we have all probably had to be the spokesperson for the entire Black community, like all however million people in this country of the United States. And I'm like, you really want me to speak for everybody? Like everybody?
Right.
No. That's exhausting. So if that's what's being asked, then I would decline, right? Because to me, that's not productive. It's counterintuitive and it's not productive. Now, if you want me to share my personal experience, yes. If you want me to add voice to these policy changes that you want to implement, if you want to add voice to some situations that have happened in our organization, and then how they have been received and by me and or others, and what you could have done to change or do it differently, then that I'm more inclined to have that conversation and participate in that type of dialogue, and instead of, well, how do you think we, like, how do Black people feel about this? I don't know how all Black people feel about this.
Right. I know how I feel.
I know how I feel. So I can speak on me. But I think this is a unique opportunity. So if you feel like your organization has not addressed some things, and so I can speak to a recent example of an organization that I'm in. So I actually own my own company, work for myself, but I'm involved in other organizations in the community, and I'm involved in a women's organization. And I felt that this women's organization did not rise to the occasion. And I addressed the leadership, and I reached out to the leadership and said, hey, I don't think you rose to the occasion, but here's 6 things that you can do to meet this moment. You know, at this point, a statement is just words and it doesn't mean anything. But these are some 6 tangible actions you can take as an organization that will then help advance this conversation about equity and fairness for all of your members, you know, all of your members.
Yeah.
And so that would be what I would say. I would say really be thoughtful about the conversations you choose to advance, and have solutions. Again, you know, be solution oriented, have some specific strategies, and have some specific actions and takeaways that you would like to see. There are so many organizations out there that are credible, that do this work all the time in organizations that facilitate dialogue. So that's another opportunity. Hey, this is an opportunity for us to partner with an organization who can help us address these things, who can help us have this dialogue, who can help us review our policies, who can help us implement new strategies, who can help us really get to the statement that you put out, help us get there. But if your company has issued a statement, I say you congratulate them and say, I will be looking for these actions to take place. And you hold their feet to the fire, because right now we have a lot of what I would call performance art. A lot of these statements are performative art.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the, you know, TikToks and anything, you know, all this other stuff, you know, the banner ads on the website and these certain a lot of that is performance art.
Mm-hmm.
What actions are you taking? We talked about negotiations.
Yeah.
When is the last time you did a salary audit of your women, your African American, your employees, compared to their white counterparts that are doing the same jobs? When last time we did a salary audit to see if we are truly being equitable? When is the last time we did something of substance in that way? Because to me, that's better than you putting out a statement.
Yes. Yeah. All right. We had to touch on it. We had to. We absolutely had to.
Statements are nice, words are great, but action is so much better any day of the week. And I want to see some substantive actions.
Yes.
And if you're willing to have that conversation or be a part of that dialogue, yes. But I don't think all of these are our burdens to carry, because some of these burdens are for other folks. They need to figure out. It's not my burden to carry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. And so this last question, as we start to bring the conversation to a close, because I could talk to you all night. I really could. So just speaking about the COVID-19 pandemic, you know, there's so much fear, there's so much anxiety in employees across all industries. I can't think of an industry that is not impacted by what's happening, be it sports, entertainment, education, healthcare, hospitality, retail, transportation. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So these are the ones that immediately come to mind for me. So what do you say to the woman or man, because some of our Fab Squad, you know, ladies might have their significant other, you know, tuning in. What do you say to people at home who have concerns that their employer is placing profits before safety? I'm just going to say it, just simply placing profits before safety. How can, you know, people express these fears, these feelings with their leader without compromising their employment status, feeling like, oh, they'll be fired or they might be, you know, punished or retaliated against, you know, for bringing this to the forefront?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is a tough one as well, but I would say first and foremost, you are responsible for your own health and safety first. So you do everything within your span of control and within your sphere of influence to take care of yourself, those around you, and those that are in your immediate line. So if you are in a management role, in a leadership position in any way, shape, or form, take care of the people on your team and you know the rest of the greater organization, then we can handle that. That is the next step, right? But first, you and your team, right? And make sure that you everything within your span of control that you can. So make sure that you follow the safety guidelines, and make sure that you all have the proper, if you need protective equipment, what that looks like for your team. Now, in terms of resources that the company and the organization should have, again, this goes back to knowing the facts. And
Mm.
so finding out, well, this is what you should be providing, or what you should or are expected to provide according to the CDC guidelines and according to this. You know, when can we get this? If I purchase this on my own, will I be reimbursed?
Reimbursed.
How can I
Yeah.
get reimbursement for this, right? But you know, ask for clear policies, but know what some of the what some of the guidelines are, the science-based guidelines, not people's feelings. Because one of the challenges we have as a nation right now is that we're dealing with a whole bunch of people's feelings and not a whole bunch of facts. And so focus on what are some of the clear science-based guidelines and policies, and bring them to the fore in your organization. Again, start with you. Make sure you're taking care of you. Make sure you're taking care of the people within your immediate sphere of influence and control. And then you can start holding the organization's feet to the fire on these are the things that you should be providing. If you have an opportunity to ask for accommodations, so if you're in a high risk category and you're not comfortable going back to work, and you can ask for accommodations to work from home, work a different shift. You know, if you are a shift worker, if you can work a shift where it's not as heavily populated with people, if you can do any type of adjustments or modification to, you know, your working space and environment,
Your
if you must
environment.
come in, yeah, those accommodations, be okay with asking for the accommodations you need to remain safe and healthy. um But again, you have to ask. You have
Yeah.
to know what the policies are. And one of the things I tell people, always have a good friend in HR. Always have a good friend in HR. Because if you have a good friend in HR, you don't have to go to your manager. You can just go to your good friend in HR, and they will do the work for you.
Hmm.
So if you don't have a good friend in HR, honey, you need to start become good friends with somebody
Yeah.
in the HR department.
Yeah.
Because also
Relationships are very important.
relationships matter all up and through your organizations. Relationships, if you work in an organization that still has cafeteria, because when I used to go up to the corporate headquarters at my company, honey, I had relationships with the people in the cafeteria. So whenever I went to visit, when I ever was there to go up into the corporate office, the people in the cafeteria knew me.
Yeah.
They know what's going on.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
All of the executive assistants, they know what's going on. And so
Yeah.
if ever I needed anything, they always took care of me or always helped me get to a solution faster.
Yeah.
So relationships absolutely matter. So I would say make friends, get good friends with somebody in HR who can then advance this conversation. So it's not just a you conversation, it's a company conversation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're not the one off, the
Right.
outlier.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. And so, in all of this, asking and, spending some time with self, being very clear, and asking because you have not, because you asked not.
That's
And the
not. That's
answer
right.
might be no now, but it may be just a not right now,
Mhm,
But if we never
mhm.
get over the fear of even asking, all these scenarios and all the things we talked through, it all started with asking a question or initiating a conversation.
Yeah. And so and that's what crucial conversations are all about.
Yep.
And so one of the things, if you've ever read Seven Habits for Highly Effective People, it's still a very good book and title out there. There's one of the habits is seek first to understand. So if you always approach these crucial conversations with an inquisitive spirit, and I say, have, some intellectual curiosity about yourself, all of the conversations become a lot less easier because you are trying to hear instead of be heard, and you're trying to engage instead of inform, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when you do that and you approach all these difficult conversations that way, I think you get further faster and you learn a lot more, and the more you know, the better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listening to understand is so crucial, not just always talking, letting the other person share and you really listen to their concerns, what's going on, really understanding, their position. Yeah.
Yep. Seek
Yeah.
first to understand, then to be understood. That's how the
Yeah.
habit goes. And so
Yeah.
that's what I would encourage all of us to do. And to the point you made, a closed, as the old folks said, closed mouth don't get fed. So you
Not at
have to
all.
open your mouth and you have to ask. So yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. So, Demetria, thank you so much for joining us for this very timely and relevant conversation. And I just wanted to make sure that people know how to stay connected with you. And that's through your website, vantagepointcoach.com. And the last thing before we completely wrap this up, I know that everyone has a friend, a family member, maybe even a coworker. Maybe some of these conversations have been had in the break room. Maybe it was just kind of like water cooler talk, so to speak. And some of the things that were shared in this broadcast would really bless and really help someone that you might know, even in a personal capacity, in your family, maybe a colleague, church member. But I want us all to be sure to share this broadcast. As the lifestyle pharmacist, what I'm trying to do is bring, my super friends, before you, because I'm not an expert on all things, right? I don't want to be the smartest one in the room. I want to be surrounded by people that are, knowledgeable in things that I'm not. And so through this forum, I'm bringing people before you to talk about the topics that really matter. So I can't do this alone, right? So I need you all to partner with me and share the information that you're receiving when you listen to Live with the Fab Squad, because it's all about getting the message out there and helping to transform lives and doing that for the people that we love and helping them. All right. So that's all I have. Any final comments or final words before I let you go, Demetria?
I just want to thank you again. I want to thank your audience. Thank the Fab Squad. I'm a member of the Fab Squad too. Please go to my website and subscribe to my emails. I don't spam you, so but I'll hopefully send you some relevant content, and you can know about some of the events that I have going on. And you can follow me on all social media platforms at Vantage Point Coach. So Instagram, LinkedIn. What else? Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and
Facebook.
Twitter.
You're on Twitter
Yeah,
too? All right.
on
Okay.
Twitter as well. So all of those, if you go at Vantage Point Coach, you'll find me. So thank you, Jamie, so much. And
Oh,
thank
you
you
are
for
so welcome.
having this
Absolutely.
conversation. This is
Yes.
important.
Yeah, absolutely. All
Mhm.
right, Fab Squad. Until next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.